Beruchim haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Samech Gimel Amud Aleph, 9 lines from the top. The Gemara had previously told us that a person who is about to shecht, he should take the shechita knife to a chacham and give the chacham the right to then look at the shechita knife to determine that it's smooth, it doesn't have any nicks on it. It was considered to be a kavod to show the Rav as well. The Gemara now says the following: Omar Rovet Surbe Mirabonon Chazi Lanavshei. A young Talmid Chacham, he can then look at the shechita knife himself without having to show it to his Rebbe. Since he's going to use it for his own shechita purposes, it's sufficient for him to examine the knife himself. Ravina Ikloi LeMechuzo. Ravina went to the city of Mechuzo. I see Ushbezichne Sakina. The call. He then came to the innkeeper, and the innkeeper then wanted to show him his shechita knife. So he told him, Ravina, he said to the innkeeper, go show the knife to Rava. He's the Rav of the town. Show the knife to him. Do you now hold of what Rava himself said, that it's Sur Mirabbanan Talmid Chacham does not have to show the knife to his Rebbe? Omar lei, he said back to him, Ono mazivna zevina. I'm here to then purchase the meat. In other words, I'm a guest at the innkeeper, at your inn. It's your shechita that you're coming to then ask a shaila about. So when it's Sur Mirabbanan, is to then shecht for himself, then Rav says he doesn't have to then examine the knife. But when somebody else is then going to then serve and sell meat to a tzur m'rabbanan, then you would have to then show the knife to the Rebbe. The Gemara now brings the following: Numanek siman zilo lahaniya machlif iko v'yaakov. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Elazar Mahagrunyo, Rav Acha bar Tachlifa, these two sages, Ikloi lebei Rav Acha berei de Rav Iko. They went to visit the household of Rav Acha, in the house of Rav Acha, the son of Rav Iko. Be'asrei de Rav Acha bar Yaakov, in the vicinity, in the locale, where Rav Acha bar Yaakov was the Rav. He was an old distinguished Rav, and that's where they went to visit it. Boy Rav Acha berei de Rav Ika. Rav Acha, the son of Rav Ika, asked, L'ma'abelu igla tilsa. He requested that a choice type of meat be prepared. An igla tilsa is a calf that only got to 1/3 of its growth. It's considered to be a choice type of meat. I see sakina v'kamach v'lehu. He went and he showed the knife to these two Talmidei Chachamim. Omar lehu, he said to them, Rav Acha bar Tachlifa said to them, Lo lichush le Saba. Are you not going to show it to the Saba, meaning the Rav, the distinguished Rav of the ear, namely Rav Acha bar Yaakov? Omar lehu, Rabbi Elazar Me'agrunyo, he said, Hochi Omar Rav, it's Sur Rabbanan Chazal Nafshei. A Talmid Chacham can look at the knife himself. Chazi v'inish, Rabbi Elazar ben Agrunya. Rabbi Elazar ben Agrunya, he then looked at the knife himself, but he was punished. Frek de Gemara, v'ha'omar rove, tzur b'mirabbanon, chazi l'nafshei. A Talmid Chacham can look at the knife and examine it himself. He doesn't have to show it to the Rav. Says the Gemara, shayni hasam. There it's different. Why? They began with the kavod of the Rav Acha bar Yaakov. They started speaking about him, and this, you should show it to him. And then, by not showing to him, it was considered to be a zilzal in his kavod, so he was punished. Alternatively, you can say, Shiny Rav Acha bar Yaakov the muflag. The reason why he was punished is because Rav Acha bar Yaakov was muflag. He was not only an elderly sage, but he was unique in being a very big Talmid Chacham. And because of his status, then he should have showed the Rav the knife. And the fact that he didn't, he was punished, he was held accountable. Says the Gemara Vaiter Omar Rave. Rave says, when it comes to then paskening halacha in front of your Rav, that's so long, he says, is that there's not going to be a situation where you're going to be mafresh somebody from doing an isser. Because there is an exception to the rule. When you're going to mafresh somebody from doing an isser, you prevent him from doing an isser, then in certain circumstances, therefore you could go ahead and paskin in front of the Rav as follows. Omar Rav, ula'afrushe mi isura afilu befon of shapir dami. To prevent the person from doing an isser, even in front of his Rebbe, one may do so. Ravina have a Yosef Kamei Rav Ashi. Ravina was sitting before Rav Ashi. Now we stated before that Ravina was a Talmid Chover of Rav Ashi. Rav Ashi was greater in terms of, I shouldn't say greater, he was a comrade. Ravina was a comrade of Rav Ashi, he was a Chover, he was a colleague, but he also learned from Rav Ashi. And we said that Rav Ashi was the Rav of the town. So it says over here that although before we learned that Ravina, because he was a Talmid Chover, he wasn't just a Talmid Chover, he was an equal status, he was also a colleague, thereby he was able to look at the shechita knife himself. But in regards to rendering a halacha, that even a Talmid Chover cannot do in front of his Rebbe. So it says like this, Chazi lahu gavre de ka'oser le lechamro betzinto beshabto. That Ravina, who was sitting in front of Rav Ashi, he saw that there was a person who was about to then tie his donkey to the dekel tree on Shabbos. Now, it seems to be from Rashi that he wasn't coming to do an Isser Malacha of Kesher, certainly not Midiraisa, and even Midirabanan, an Isser of making a Keshira, making a knot on Shabbos. That wasn't the issue. But Rashi says the issue is that he was coming to then Meshamish Bi'ilan. So Ravina saw that, and Rama Bekola, he raised his voice. V'lo ashkach bey, and the man did not pay attention to him. Omar le, Ravina then said, Lahave hai gavra beshamto. This person should be put into chayrim, into excommunication. Omar le, then Ravina said to Rav Ashi, Ki hai gavna mi mischaze ke afkarusa. He then said, in this situation, did I act with indolence, with hefkerus? After all, maybe I should have let you, Rav Ashi, say something in my place. Omar le, Rav Ashi responded, Ein chochma ve'ein tvuna ve'ein eitza leneged Hashem. He brought a pasuk. Kol makom sheish bo chilul Hashem ein cholkim kavod l'rav. When there's going to be a chilul Hashem, specifically when somebody's going to then go ahead and be going to be mafri somebody else from Isser. If not, there'll be a chilul Hashem. He'll be doing an Isser, something that's against the rotzen of Hashem openly. Then there's not going to be, since there'll be a cover to then ask the Rav, then you can step in and say something, even though the Rav is present. Omar Rave said, Befonov osev v'chayiv misa. If one then renders a halachic decision in front of his Rebbe, then he's chayiv misa b'dei shomayim. Shaloi befonov osev chayiv misa. If it's not in front of his Rebbe, without him being present, then it's still osir, but he's not chayiv misa. Says the Gemara, V'shalo b'fanav loy, ask the Gemara, if he's not in his presence, he's not going to be then chayiv misa. V'hotanya, because it states in the following brayso, Rabbi Eliezer Oimer, lo meisu b'nei Aaron ad shehoiru halacha b'fnei Rosh Rabbon. After all, Rabbi Eliezer said that the children, Nadav v'Avihu, the children of Aaron who died with the incense going into their nostrils and destroying their insides, they were only killed only because they were haru halacha b'fnei Moshe Rabbon. My darush, what is the drasha that they were paskening, that they related? It says in the pasuk, "V'nasnu b'nei Aaron hakoyin eish ala mizbeach." They placed a fire on the mizbeach. Omru, they said the following: Af al pisha eish yaredes min hashomayim. Even though the fire is going to descend from heavens, still mitzvah lahavim min hahedyot. A human person, a human being, must place the fire on the mizbeach. So they rendered this halachic decision. V'talmid echad hayal Rabbi Eliezer. There was a student in front that was belonging to Rabbi Eliezer, a student of his, shahar halacha b'fanav, who taught halacha in front of Rabbi Eliezer. Omar Rabbi Eliezer le'ima shalom ishtoi. He remarked to his wife, who's called Shalom, Ima Shalom, Tamia ani im yoitzi zeh. I will be in wonderment. I'll be amazed if this Talmud will live out the year. And indeed, he did not live out the year. Omroloi, his wife said to him, Navi ata, are you a prophet? Omar lo navi anochi v'lo ben navi anochi. I'm not a prophet. I'm not the son of a prophet. Elo kach mikubaloni. Rather, this is what I have, the Masar, the tradition. Kol hamara halacha b'fnei rabbi chayiv misa. Anybody who's going to render a halacha tradition in front of his Rebbe is going to be held accountable and chayiv misa. V'omar rabbi barav hachan omar b'yochanon oisoi talmid Yehuda ben Gurya Shmoy. The name of this Talmud was Yehuda ben Gurya. V'haya rochaik mimenu sholosh parsois. He was a distance of 3 parsois. Befon of Hava, he was in front of him. Asked the Gemara, V'ha rochaik mimenu sholosh parsois kamar. You said just before that he was 3 parsois away. So how can you say it was in front of him? Uletaimeich, according to your rationale, Shmoy v'shem aviv lama. Why did Rabbi Yochanan state his name and the name of his father? Ella shaloi toima mashal haya. Just so that you should not say it is a mashal. In other words, he was just stating that he's 3 parsos away in terms of where he lived. But in terms of rendering the halachic, the shinah was a bifanov. He only stated that he wanted to give accurate information, so you see as some sort of parable, some sort of story that took place. Omar Chia barabe Omar Yochanan. Anybody who renders a halachic decision in front of his Rebbe is fitting to be bitten by a snake. And he brings a pasuk. Shenemar states, Vayan Elihu ben Barak El. And Elihu, he answered, he was the son of Barak El, he answered, Barak El Habuzi Vayom, and he said, Seir ani liyomim, I am young in days. Al kain zalachalti. Therefore, I was afraid. The next pasuk, another pasuk is Viksiv. Im chamas zoichle ofar, with the venom of those who slither in the dust, referring to snakes. So you see the fact that he says al kain zachalti is related to the word zoichali, the snakes, those who slither in the ofar, whereby a person will then render a halachic decision in the presence of his Rebbe is roy to be then bitten by a snake. Because he was, as he said, Atzar ani liyomim. I was young in my days. And therefore, he said, I was afraid. I was afraid to render a halachic decision. Because if I would, then I would be then roy to be bitten by a snake. Zi'iri amar Rabbi Chanina, nikra choyte. He's called a choyte if he renders a decision in front of his Rebbe. Shenemar brings a pasuk, Belibi tzofanti imrasecha. David HaMelech says, in my heart I hid your words, your halachic words, leman lo echta lecha, so that Hashem, I should not sin against you. Rav Hamnuna Rami, ksiv belibi tzafanti imrasecha. We have the pasuk that we just quoted, that David HaMelech says, I kept the words, your imrosecha, your halachic words, hidden in my heart, without then rendering halachic decision. Viksiba says afterwards, in another pasuk, it says, Bisarti tzedek mikal rav. It says that I have then announced judgment, tzedek, in the great kahal, in the great, amongst the people. So you see that on the one hand, he did not render a decision, on the other hand, he did. Give an answer to the Gemara, it's not a contradiction, lo kasha. It says, Kan bizman she'ira haye'eri kayam. Kan bizman she'ein ira haye'eri kayam. When his Rebbe was alive, ira haye'eri, then he would not render a halachic decision. But when he passed away, then he rendered a halachic decision. Om Rabbi Abba bar Zavde, kol anoisin mas noisav lekohen echad, maybe Rav la'olam. Here the Gemara brings one that mentions David HaMelech and his Rebbe So it brings a tangential type of halacha and says that somebody who gives all of his matnos kahuna to one kohen, then he brings famine, brings a pasuk, says the Gemara. Shenemar, Ira hayeiri hayakoin leDavid. He was a kohen to David. Asked the Gemara, leDavid who to have a kohen? To David he was a kohen. But lekuli amaloi, he wasn't a kohen to everybody else. Answers the Gemara, Elashahaya mishager loy masnoisav. David Melech would send all of his matonos to this kohen, his Rebbe. It's written afterwards, Vayihi Rov Bimei David. As a result of giving all of the matnas kahuna to just one kohen, then that brings about famine. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Eliezer, if a person renders a halachic decision in front of his Rebbe, he loses his status. He goes down from his gedula. Shenemar states, Vayomer Elozar HaKohen El Anshe Hatzava V'Goymer. Elozar Kohen, he spoke to the army and he gave them halachic decisions. Even though he announced that is my father's brother, namely Moshe Rabbeinu, who was commanded, it wasn't me. But still, he said the halachas instead of allowing Moshe Rabbeinu to render the halachas. It says, Afilu hocha inash, he was punished. Elazar Kohen. It states, V'lifnei Elazar Kohen yamoid, that Yoshua, he was supposed to stand in front of Elazar to get halachic decisions in the future. But we don't find that in the future Yoshua needed to come on to Elazar Kohen for halachic decisions. So you see that Elazar lost his status as a result of rendering halachic decisions instead of allowing Moshe Rabbeinu to do so.